income tax return, something that touches almost every chartered accountant, or I would say every taxpayer in this country. So the relevance of this topic is unquestionable, and for such a vastly, I would say, touching topic, which touches everyone, we have a fantastic, a very expert faculty on this, CA Avinash Ji Rawani. We have been intending to have him, and luckily we have him before we could plan. That's a good sign. Unfortunately, our today's speaker, Mukesh Bhai Trivedi, could not take today's VCM due to some personal emergency. But as I say, it happens for good. So Mukesh ji will take some other lecture someday. And today we have Avinash ji. We thank you, Avinash ji, for accepting this invitation at such a short notice, sir. I know what happens when we call in such a short notice. I request the members to please keep their. Okay. So, as I was saying, thank you so much, sir. I also have today Vasai Branch Chairman CA Ankit Rathi with us, and I welcome him also. Ankit ji, good morning, sir. Welcome, sir.
Very good morning, sir.
Without wasting and taking much of a time, I request Ankit ji to please share his pearls of wisdom with us. Ankit ji, over to you.
Thank you, Nikunj bhai. Very good morning, participants. CA Nikunj, convener, Binder CP Study Circle, a dynamic personality. CA Ritu Agarwal, deputy convener, Binder Study Circle. My fellow in committee, might be in audience side, Vijender bhai and Amit bhai, and all the coordinator and past convener of study circle. Thank you so much for inviting me, for sharing my view. First of all, I would like to congratulate entire team for keeping such a wonderful topic on VCM. That is very important and relevant need of hearts, new ITR form. For this, we have with a very learned and fantastic speaker, C. Avinash Rawani ji. Welcome, sir, on behalf of Binder CP Study Circle team. Members, CP Study entire team in the leadership of Nikunj bhai playing a key role in an electronic ambit of sharing, participating, and keeping in touch with the stakeholder to fulfill their requirement. Entire team is doing extraordinary work during this COVID-19 pandemic. I congratulate the entire team for this noble cause. Members, changes is the only constant in our life. COVID-19 with lot of negativity has definitely brought a positive angle in our life. Many of us who were working from office, client place, and traveling across global for office work now realize that office work can be carried with similar efficiency from our home or from our residence with the help of technology. Members, I will not take your much time. Coming to the subject, today we have a VCM on very important topic, new ITR form. CBTD has made many changes in new ITRs form. This session definitely help us in our regular exercise of ITR filing. With this, I again thank you, Binder CP Study Circle team, for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ankit ji, for those kind words. Your words always encourage us to go further. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out your time. I now request our coordinator, CA Mayur Kothari, to formally introduce our speaker. Mayur?
Hello?
Yes, Mayur.
It is audible?
Yes, it is audible.
Yes. Hello, good morning, everyone. Today, it is pleasure to invite our today's speaker, C. Avinash ji. Sir has been in practice since 1993. Sir has been taken lecture in various study circles of WIRC, SIRC, BCA, Chambers of Tax, and many corporate forums. Sir has been regularly visiting faculty in IIM, corporate houses, and Bombay Chambers. Sir has been contributing various articles in study groups of study groups, ICI journals, and websites, other websites. Sir been core member in e-filing, help desk on issue of uploading return various tax, e-tax audit, and other documents. He, sir has been presently been a member of a direct tax committee and ASAB of ICAI. Sir has been co-author and co-author in various publications. Sir is sir been sir in sir excuse me, sorry. Sir been associate is various publications, technical guide on ITR filing published by Direct Tax Committee in 2018, guidance note on revised tax audit notified in 2018, and he's been part member of contribution to practitioner guide to audit of small entity. Thank you, Nikunji. Thank you, sir. And Nikunji, you can take on from this.
Thank you so much, Mayur. Sir, the audience has been waiting to hear from you. We cannot stand more between them and you, sir. So the stage is all yours, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikunji. First of all, I am first of all, thank you to you for giving me this opportunity and all other members of the study circle, and especially thanks to Mukesh Bhai also, because of his personal problems, I am able to address this meeting. So today's topic basically relating to ITR, and I think this is the 10th meeting which I am addressing in last 1 month relating to this ITR. And coming to this topic per se, I'm audible, no?
Yes, sir. Absolutely audible, sir.
Okay. Just a moment. Yeah. Screen
Yes,
is okay, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. It's all good.
So topic per se, ITR. So this basically, we have, being a member of Direct Tax Committee, we have been insisting to the department that you at least release the ITR well in advance, so that we can plan it. And we can do the necessary prepare for the necessary requirements. And since last 4 to 5 years, we have been requesting. Last year we had the utility which was released on 1st of April, but this year, due to this COVID issue, there has been a notification wherein certain changes has been proposed due to this notification. There was a press release, and because of which the amendment was required in the form per se. So basically, we'll be discussing it. This topic today is divided into 3 parts. First is related to the requirements of the ITR. Second will be about the changes which has happened due to this COVID pandemic, and what are the precautions, of what are the requirements of COVID to be reported in the ITR. And third, per se, the last but not the least, that changes in the new AIR requirements. And lastly, we will be taking the question and answers if there are any question and answer. I think I have tried to compile maximum issues in this, and whatever the issues I have got in the last 10 minutes. Would request everybody to put it on the mute basis, otherwise they will not be able to hear it properly. So per se, this is the new ITR return, that is, expert believe that such information would lead to enhance the quality of the scrutiny of the income tax department. So basically, if you see, the ITR has been amended so many times, and each year we have the new utility. The requirement of new utilities basically requires the additional information to be collected. And now, if you see, whatever the information which was required to be given at the time of income tax scrutiny is all basically covered in the ITR itself. So this year's return is also one of the important reasons that you need to fill up the forms in a proper mode, so you don't get any issues further. Because if you don't fill up the required information, definitely it leads to a delay in processing, and delay in processing or keeping the return aside and selection for scrutiny for unwarranted reasons also. Starting with some statistical data, that is, we have a population of something around 134 crores, which we are getting it from the news media. And of these 134 crores, till 31st March 2019, the 43.52 crores people were holding the PAN, that is individual PAN holders. The 43.52 crores people which were holding the PAN, out of which registered users on the income tax website is 9.33 crores. That is, they have registered, but these are not the filers. of the return. This is as of 30th of June 2020. And individual returns filers, that is almost around 6.44 crores, which was 2017, but it has crossed around 8 crores right now. So 2019-20, almost around 8 crores returns filers are individual return filers. And if I am not mistaken, the data which is available, that is 5.67 crores individual return filers, the government is not getting a single revenue out of this. Basically, the 5 point means, if you see, the almost around 60% of the returns filers are there, they don't contribute to any revenue with the government derives. And almost around 12,206 returns, individual returns filers, they contribute roughly around 1,20,000 crore revenue to the department. So this is basically the data which is there. 60% of the ITR return filers are ITR 1 and ITR 4, that is presumptive taxation, out of which Aadhaar card holders, 134 crore people, 122 crore people are Aadhaar card holders. They have holding the Aadhaar. So almost around 12 crore people are still there. They don't have the Aadhaar card. And if you see, there are major changes which are made in this year's ITR. That is, you can file the return of income through the help of Aadhaar. You don't need the PAN number also to file the Aadhaar. And once you file the return, how this return will be treated, that will be covered in the next following slide. Insurance, almost around out of this 35 crore people are holding the insurance. This is all the data which has been derived from the NSDC. And mutual fund investors, we have already crossed around 2 crores investors. So if you see, from 134 crore population, mutual fund investors are only 2 crores and insurance holders are 35 crores. This is also because of the reason of the scheme which has been promoted by the government to cover many people in the insurance through insurance. And bank holders, there is around 75 crore people are holding bank accounts. This all data are changed basically up from 2000, all have increased from 2014 onwards, when the new government took the charge. Coming to the income tax statistical data, flow and the returns filers have been increasing. But if you see the comparative figures, last 1 year, that is 2019 to 2018-19 and 2019-20, there was only 1% increase in the return filing. Whereas it has been almost around 20% filers, which have increased in the last 5 to 6 years when the demonetization was launched in the country. Linking of Aadhaar returns with the deadlines have been increased and has been continuously increasing due to pandemic. It has been now made extended to 31st December. Lastly, I'll give you this. But one more thing here to be noted, that since last 4 to 5 years, we don't have any number of changes in the forms. The form number remains the same. There is no change in the number of forms. That is ITR 1 to ITR 7. These are all the forms which are available. The purpose of change is why every year the forms are changed. The first reason is that is the surgical strike on tax evasion. Basically, the government wants that each people should file the return of income whether they have income or not. So they want to track that whether there is any tax evasion or not. So this is one of the reasons that each and every time the returns are being modified or returns are being amended, so that necessary information which is required is covered in the return of income. Then basically the first of the reasons there is filers in the many people are holding the directorship in the companies, and these directorships are mainly in the shell companies. So they want to identify. Department wants to identify that which of these companies these people are directors, and being a director also they are not filing the return. So they have been made mandatory since last 2 years. And identification of the ghost in the shell companies is one of the reason. Investment in the unlisted companies, because this is the gray area wherein the tax planning has been done, wherein the transfer of shares have been happening and there has been no accounting. So in MCA also it has been made mandated now that all the unlisted public companies have to get their this shares dematted. So that date was actually 30th of September was the last date, and it has not been increased yet. So still till now, those who are holding the shares in the unlisted companies, they have to request to the companies that basically to get these shares dematted and get the ISI number allotted, because there is also a penalty under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, which is mandatory that you need to get the shares dematted at the earliest. So any further issue of shares by these unlisted companies will be through demats, and whatever the shares which are issued in a demat form will automatically be captured by the system by the agreement which has been entered between the SEBI and the Income Tax Department. Basically, the genuine taxpayers of the country, salaried individuals, because they get the salary after the deduction of tax payments. If you see the last year, that form number 24Q also has been amended, wherein all the information which is required for the purpose of filing of return of income are to be submitted in the 24Q itself. So the last 24Q return becomes the important figure. That is wherein from which the form 16 is. So if there is any mistake in this salary certificate or the form 16 which is generated online, ensure that you get this certificate corrected before filing the return, because whatever the figures which are captured in form number 16 will be automatically captured in at the time of processing the return income. So be very specific, be very correct in filing the returns this time, because the basic purpose here is to check the revenue leakages. And now you see the immovable property selling, the transaction relating to capital gains, there has been found that many leakages are, and to plug down these leakages in this capital gains, there has been discussed from additional details are required to be submitted for sale of properties also. We'll be covering it in the next few slides. Then capturing of information related to untaxed income abroad for the Indian citizens, data sharing across the globe with the various countries. Now, India has signed almost treaties with all of the companies wherein there will be the exchange of information online through various countries. So those people who are Indian citizens who are having property outside India or who are having any income or any investment outside, they are mandatorily required to file and report in the Schedule FA, which is specified in the ITR. So this is important, because if you don't fill up the schedule and if this type of transactions are being identified, then it will be treated as non-disclosure or inappropriate disclosure in the income tax return, and may levy to this penalty transaction. So be very specific, be very particular in reporting the details in the ITR, because now we are having the faceless assessments wherein you don't have to go to the income tax department. Everything has to be submitted online, and there is no physical interaction between the assessee as well as the assessing officer. The basic reason here is to increase the tax base, revenue tax base. There's more and more people should come to file the return, and the basic purpose is to boost the revenue, the tax revenue, which is the ultimate motive of the government. The direct tax collection has been rising after the demonetization period, and if you see, almost around there has been rise in 14% in tax collections after demonetization in case of corporate tax, as well as 13.3% collection increase in the personal ID. That is because, and if you see the filers earlier in 15-16, there were 4.6 crores, which increased to 5.4 crores and 6.8 crores, and now it is roughly around 9.25 crores people which are filing the return. 8.25 crores people were who has filed return in the year 18-19, and it is 9.26 crores in financial year 19-20. So issues faced, basically the department is facing issues through the non-filers. The basic filers and stock filers have increased. There's those people who are regularly filing the return, and they have discontinued the filing of the return of income, which is remaining the challenges. So that has been addressed to, that is basically non-filers and stock filers. This almost around 40 million people, that is roughly around 2 crore people are non-filers, which has been identified from 2013 to 2017. And this is the main target, that why these people have not been filing the returns. Basically, the government wants to ensure that these people are having the income and they are not filing the return of income, or that contributing to the tax equity of the government, which is one of the biggest area which is the issues has been faced by the government. And non-filers also include the drop filers. The drop filers means basically they were regularly filing the returns, but some or the other reasons they have stopped filing. They may have shifted their residence from India to the abroad, or they may have, the SSC might have expired, or for some or other reason. These are few of such reasons. So these reasons have been looked into. They have been the searching has been done for the data. That is why these people have stopped filing. So these are the major areas wherein the notices will be issued to such type of filers. Periodical review of exemptions, deductions, tax incentive is one of the reasons. Basically, what happens that gradually the income tax exemption limit is being increased. So that one of the reasons is that when your income falls below the taxable limit, you are not required to file the return of income. This is also one of the reasons that the filing has been discontinued. then if any such filer is identified that they are having the income, I mean they have not paid the taxes or they have not filed the returns, then prosecution is also being launched against such willful evildoers. This is one of the reasons wherein Aadhaar card is also made mandatory, that if the transaction is not identified through PAN, that is Aadhaar card holders, there many of them is almost around 90% of the people are holding the Aadhaar. So this Aadhaar is becoming a source that wherein the transactions can be identified and any tax revenue leakage which is there that can be recovered from such type of defaulter. Social and natural calamity is also one of the reason, that is we are having since last 4 to 5 months we are facing this COVID-19. This is one of the issues wherein default, because of this the filing has been discontinued in last 2-3 months. That is slowly and gradually the filing has become slow. And if you see the exactly the data as of now which is available, that is filing started from 1st of April, that is almost around 2 lakh people have filed the returns till 30th of June. This is because they may be then these figures basically includes the filers. That is not related to the assessment year specifically. So filers there includes any filers which have filed the return either from one or other reason. It may pertain to another assessment year also. It is not pertaining that the assessment year 2021 return filing has been done. It may be prior to this. So the due dates also has been increased to take into consideration to this such social and natural calamities. And these are the basically the issues faced by the government. Coming further to the highlights, that is returns have been notified by on 29th May 2020 and there has been no changes in the number of forms. Returns can now be filed either with the PAN or the Aadhaar. If you don't have the PAN number, you can file the returns with Aadhaar, which is what stated. And once you file the returns with Aadhaar, and automatically the PAN will be allotted to such type of assessees. And if you see the recent changes which has happened, that now if you have Aadhaar card and if you don't have PAN, within instant you can get the PAN allotted instantly through the Income Tax Department's website, incometaxindia.efiling.gov.in. But basically it should be linked with the mobile number, and mobile number should be linked. Then only it will be you will be able to get this PAN number allotted. So if the Aadhaar is not updated, and if there is any mismatch in the name also which is there, so basically they get this corrected through Aadhaar, visiting the Aadhaar center. And Aadhaar center, the nearest Aadhaar center, you can look at it from the website of the UDII, and all the details are available over there. ITR 2, ITR 4 can be filed using PAN or Aadhaar by individuals. So it is basically only for individuals. Other assessees cannot file through Aadhaar because it is they don't have Aadhaar, because ITR 5 is for form and also they are not filed through Aadhaar. And this year basically one more category has been added for filing, mandatory filing of the return of income. So if you don't have if your income is below the taxable limit, that is your gross total income is below the taxable limit, but you have entered into such type of transaction, that is you have deposited cash exceeding ₹1 crore in any one or more of the bank account, then you are liable to file income tax return. If you have incurred foreign travel expenses exceeding 2 lakhs or electricity expenses ₹1 lakh, you are mandatorily required to file the return due to amendment in the 7th proviso of the Section 139(1) of the Income Tax Act. Time limit for claiming the exemption on investment under Chapter 6A was last date was 30th June 2020, but it has been now enhanced to, that is increased, that you can claim deposit make such investments in 31st of July 2020 onwards. ITR 1, ITR 2, and ITR 4, all these three utilities are released, and most probably ITR 3 utilities will be also released within a day or two. I think by tomorrow it should come, that utility should come. So at least all utilities related to individual filing will be released and you will be able to upload the returns. Due date as of now remains the same, that is 30th November. This year there is one biggest change, that is 1 month time limit has been given. That is, you have to submit the tax audit report 1 month prior to that under Section 44AB. So your tax audit report has to be submitted by 31st of October, and you get 1 month further time to file the return of income. Basically, the reason of giving this 1 month's time limit is that whatever the information or whatever the qualification which the auditors have made in the auditor's report, and whatever the information which has been submitted in the auditor's report will be automatically captured in the ITR. So department is planning to give you the pre-filled ITR XML so that you can fill up the details. Whatever the pending details are there, you can verify the details which are there in the return itself, and you can take the base for filing the return. So all other informations based on your previous year's ITRs, on your other reports or the other details which are captured, the pre-filled XML will be released or will be made available to the SSC for filing the return of income. And one of the biggest thing which I got day before yesterday, that now CA will not be required to file the return of income. So one person had filed, mentioned this, queried in the Google, that is whether I can file the returns without the help of the CA. So the Google has given the good answer that you can definitely file the returns without the help of the CA, just like you can take the medicines without the consulting the doctors. But yeah, then there are the benefits and disadvantages of doing that. So same thing is reported here. And one of the reason behind this, that in the income tax department's website, it was also stated that CA is not, now you are not, the CA is not required to file the return of income. So that, due to objection which was taken by our institute and other professional bodies, that has been removed out from the income tax website. But friends, see that slowly and gradually the utilities are made to available to such an extent that there will be days in near days that wherein all the information will be readily available with the SSC, and they may be able to file the returns. And this is also biggest challenge to the software providers. When department is going to give you the pre-filled utility, you just have to verify whether the details are correct or not. And when this type of utilities are available, the private software providers will also face an issue that why they will these people will purchase the softwares to file the return of income. Then about the companies, and also all the due dates are now 30th of November, 30th of November. Till as of now it is there, because I have written as of now, because we have, as from the institute, we have requested to extend the date further, but let us see what is the outcome of that. We have requested that they at least basically make this due date to 31st of December and see what is the outcome of that. So till now the due date remains the same, but so whenever the due dates have been extended, it will be reported in the on the website of the income tax department. This is return requires you the higher detailed reporting revamp, because now each and every information which is stored is been required in the return of income. So whenever I am filing the return, I am collecting the information of filing the returns of any of my clients. My clients have started telling me that you are not a CA, you are just become an income tax officer who are filing, who are capturing all these details, because whatever the information is required, government wants you to be transparent. You submit all the information, submit all the details. So it is moving towards the transparency. This is one of the reasons. In the area of e-assessment, it is now government doesn't want that any manual interaction should be there. And once you upload the details, once you upload the information on the software, in the utility department, department software captures all the information, and based on the information which has been submitted, it compares the details which are available on the ITBA software. And this ITBA software information is now available in the AIR information. That is AIR information. Now earlier we used to say that 26AS, but now the name of the 26AS has been replaced with AIR, that is annual information returns. Each of this area, when you see the form number 61A is required to be filed, when you enter into certain number of specified transactions or you become a specified person, you are required to report. And based on what this information is submitted, this information is posted to that PAN, that particular PAN. And 26AS is just like a bank statement, wherein all the details which are available, your full biographies are what you have done. So this is towards the approach towards the transparency, and this all information which is there is being compared, and based on this comparison, the deficiencies or the discrepancies have been generated, and this results into scrutiny of assessment. This is basically expanding the taxpayer base and linkage. Now, when you are filing the returns of income, ensure that the figures and the details which you are giving it are linked correctly with the other departments. That is, you have GST, you have VAT, you have excise, somewhere it is applicable. So basically, wherever these informations are given, see that these informations are reconciled so that you don't have any such issues further thereafter after returns filing. Now, who are exempted from the returns filing? So these are only one category of persons are exempted. That is super senior citizens, that is individual who are at the age, who have crossed the age of 80 or more, provided they don't have the income from profits and gains of business. So if they have income from profits and gains of business, and if they are exceeding 80 years, then they cannot file the return offline. So almost if you see, everybody is covered through e-filing. There is no exemption given to anybody. So coming to the form, that is this is the new form. This I got a good memo from the BCA journal. I have taken it. So basically it is explains to the SSC that I'm giving you this new form, don't try to lose this temper this time. So this is the tax consultant giving the returns forms to the SSC to fill it up and to give up the information. So crisp return, that is first ITR 1. So ITR 1 to 7 remains the same. So who can file and who cannot file, everybody is aware of it. So I'm not covering much in detail. But till last year, that is ITR 1 ITR 1 still has to be used by only residential individual. And if the person who is having the income from one house property, and if the person was having the income from one house property, but the property was held jointly with any other person, then they were not able to use ITR 1. Or on the similar lines, if the person was having a presumptive income and he was having income from one house property, then in that case also they were not liable to they were not eligible to file the use this ITR. But this has been removed now. So if you are falling within any of these 5 categories which have been mentioned above, then you can use this ITR 1 even if you are a joint holder. So this is the biggest change which has happened. But see that this other things remains the same, so I'm not covering that. So ITR 2 is basically for individuals. All individuals can use it, or individuals or HUF not having income from business or profession and who are not eligible to file ITR. Even if you are a partner of a partnership firm, then you are considered as having a business income from business or profession. You cannot use ITR 2. You have to shift to ITR 3. ITR 3 is for other individuals, that is who are having income from business and professions, and those who are not eligible to file ITR 1 or 2, they can use ITR 3. ITR 4 again is a crisp return, again in the same, basically it is for presumptive taxes of income, and presumptive tax of income that those who have, that's covered by 44AB, 44AE, etc., and they have reporting the profit based on the presumptive taxation. So wherein you can use this ITR, but your total income should not exceed, aggregate income should not exceed 50 lakhs. And here also one shortfall is that if you are claiming TDS, which has been a part of your income, and that income is on account of clubbing of income, and you're claiming the set-off of the taxes paid under other PAN, then even if you're falling within this category, you cannot use this ITR 4 form. You have to shift to ITR 3 itself. ITR 3 have all these details. Even if you have presumptive income, if you don't want to file ITR 4, you can file ITR 3. But here the one reason is that when you are using the higher version of the utility, whatever the information which is mandatorily required in that particular ITR, you have to give that information. So if you don't give that information, the information in the ITR, your returns will not be processed. So see that whatever the information which is given, that is given properly for processing the correct return of income. And one thing here I would like to highlight here is that if you are using a specific utility, that is, if you are using ITR 1 or ITR 4, basically, and that is return has been filed through this utility, then if you want to file the revised return, then you have to use the same utility. You cannot shift to other utility. Now, for any other reason, suppose that due to some income which has come to be reported, and that income cannot be reported in that ITR which you have filed, then it will be a biggest problem, because at the time of filing the revised return, it does not allow you to change the utility. The system does not accept it. So it is always advisable that you use the higher version of the ITR, so that if any income is required to be reported, or any difference of income is required to be imported, or if you want to revise the return, you can definitely revise the return correctly. The time limit for revision remains the same. There is no change. ITR 5 is for individual HUF other than individual HUF company, and those who are covered by this section 11 and section 12A, that is basically the charitable trust and institution, they cannot use ITR 5. ITR 6 is for companies, those who are claiming companies other than those who are claiming exemption under section 11. This does not change. There is no change in. ITR 7 is for charitable trust associations who are claiming benefit. Even the person that is section 8 company or the section 25 company of the earlier Companies Act, they are required to file ITR 7 because they are claiming exemptions under this. Political parties, then persons who are required to mandatorily furnish the return under section 139 4A, B, C, etc. So basically this is for these people, and there are changes in this ITR. Trusts are required to file the returns, that is with or without digital signature. They can file with either OTP also, but political parties are mandatorily required to file the return with the digital signature. And there has been lots and lots of amendment in the ITR 7. So those who are dealing with the trust and the charitable institution, this will be a challenge for you. I tell you, this will be a challenge for you that to file this return. And basically, don't ever try to give any misinformation in this ITR, because these are the ITRs which are closely watched by the department, because basically these are for the exempted. These are fall within the exempted category, and mostly the tax evasion is done through ITR 7. So ITR 7 is the biggest challengeable return for this year. And what are the changes will come across today. So now, what are the changes or what are the additional information which are reported in the ITR, that is ITR 1 to ITR 4, now requires you that if you are filing the returns, that is Finance Act 2019 has introduced a mandatory filing of return of income by the following assets. That is cash deposit in current account, expenditure in foreign travel, that is cash deposit in current account is exceeding 1 crore. It includes one or more accounts. So all current accounts should be clubbed together, and if it is a cash deposit is more than 1 crore. Expenditure on foreign travel means you have incurred the expenses. The person, you may not have traveled, but the other person would have traveled and you have spent the money. So you have to report. The person who has spent the money has to report, not the person who has traveled and who has not spent the money. One question comes here that now a person has incurred an expenditure, but subsequently that person was reimbursed, that the amount was reimbursed to that person who has spent. Then whether that the person who has traveled has to report. I think in my opinion, the person who has traveled and who has reimbursed the money has to report. Expenditure in for consumption of electricity. Basically, this is any electricity consumption exceeding rupees 1 lakh. You have paid any electricity bill exceeding 1 lakh rupees, then you are required to file the return. So even though if you don't have taxable income, then you are required to file the return. So now in this utility, in the general information you have to give, it is basically for individuals and HUFs, because individuals and HUFs are covered through this category. And once you click that you are filing the return because of this one, 7 provision, there is 7 provisions of 139(1), and you don't have the taxable income. If you are a regular filer and you are regularly filing the returns and you are having the taxable income, then you are not covered by this. Then you are not required to fill up these details. Then second information is that is ITR 3 and ITR 5. That is, now you see the Finance Act 2020 has made mandatory that certain classes of assets have been exempted from tax audit, provided if their turnover is between 2 crores to 5 crores and their cash transactions are less than 5 crores. That is 5% of the total receipts or total payments. So they are required. They are not covered by the tax audit. This is due to the amendment which has been brought out down by the Finance Act 2020. So if you fall within this category, then you have to select yes here, and then you have to give a certificate whether your tax receipts exceed 1 crore but does not exceed 5 crores, etc., etc. All this you have to fill up. And when the accounts are required to be audited, the details of the auditors are required to be filled up either in any of the clause of the section 44AB. Earlier, the PAN number was mandatory. The auditor's PAN number was mandatory. Now that has been replaced. That is, the auditor can either give PAN number or give Aadhaar number of the person who is signing the audit report. So that is one of the change which has happened. Coming to this clause further, that is basically what is the applicability. Now, what it says that aggregate receipts includes capital contribution, all income, sale of assets, loan taken or loan received back. So all receipts, aggregate of this receipt should not exceed 5% of your turnover. Or in case of coming to the payment side includes drawings, all expenses payment, purchase of assets, loan repaid or loan given. So basically, whatever the outgoings which are there in cash, that should not exceed 5%. So if it is exceeding 5%, then you are not covered. So basically, this is the chart which is available. That is, if your turnover is up to 1 crore rupees and you are reporting income, which is 6% or 8%, or the 6% is basically if all the transactions are through your bank transactions or digital transactions, and 8% of the turnover as a profit through cash transactions, then these cash receipts exceeding 5% of cash payment have no relevance. You are not liable to do the tax audit. But if you are not tax this amount turnover is below 1 crore and you are not reporting the profits by within this 44 AD, the criteria fixed, then also this cash receipts and cash payments are not relevant. You are liable to conduct the tax audit. Tax audit has to be done under section 44 ABE. But if your business is you are disclosing the profit which is in the if you are reporting profit with a percentage profit, then you are not liable for tax audit. But if you are not reporting the profit with that percentage, then you are liable for tax audit. So that criteria remains the same. But if your business is between 2 crores and 5 crores, and basically it is for ITR 3, 4, and 5, that is individual HUF partnership funds, then percentage of that is 44 AD does not come into picture. Then your relevance comes to the cash receipts and your cash payments. So if your cash receipts and your cash payments, as which you already discussed, if it is less than 5% and less than 5%, cash payments also less than 5, then you are not required to do the tax audit. But if both are exceeding 5%, then you are required to do the tax audit. If any one of them is exceeding, then also you are required to do the tax audit. And if your turnover is above 5 crores, then all this criteria doesn't have any relevance, then you are liable for tax audit. This is for the purpose of business. And for the professionals, it remains the same. That is, again, there's no change in the limit. That is, if your turnover is below 50 lakhs, your receipts are below, your fees receipts are below 50 lakhs, and you are reporting 50% of your net profit, then you are under section 44 ADA, then you are not liable for tax audit. But if it is exceeding 50 lakhs, you are liable for tax audit. So this criteria, cash receipts and cash payment, does not have any relevance. So here only the role of 44 ADA, that is 50% profit criteria, plays role. So this is basically, this will give you the clear picture as to when you have to do the tax audit or when you don't have to do the tax audit. So this will be beneficial to you. So if any questions or any queries are there, will be taken in the last after completing this. Then income from salary, that is ITR 2 and 4, 1 and 2 now requires you to give the details of your nature of employment. Till last year, this not applicable clause was not there. So whether you are in any of the employment, it's central government, state government, public sector undertaking, pensioners, etc., then you are required to click there, and not applicable was not there. So now not applicable has become, that is any other, if any of these clauses are not applicable, you have to select the not applicable over there. So this has been changed, which is income from property. So if you have let out the property to any individual, or and the person does not have Aadhaar card, this PAN number, then you can mention the Aadhaar card number, because almost every SSCs are having the Aadhaar. So this is basically here to ensure that the person to whom the rent has been given has been his number, Aadhaar card or PAN number is mandated. And this mandatory requirement is that if your rent received exceeds rupees 1 lakh. So if your income is, your rent income exceeds 1 lakh, gross rent exceeds 1 lakh, then you are required to fill up the schedule. It is mandatory. It is only reporting for this individual. And in case of other SSCs, you are required to report the PAN number, which are mandatory, because other SSCs PAN number is mandatory. So in capital gains now, so if you have any income which is from the capital gains, which is related to long-term capital gains, relating to sale of shares, then you are required to fill up the schedule, new schedule, that is 112A, which has been expanded. Now it requires to mention the ISIN code, name of the share, that is which share you have purchased, sold, number of shares you have sold, sale price per unit you have to give, full value of consideration has to be given, cost of acquisition without indexation, cost of acquisition, total cost will be, this column will be computed automatically. Then if there is any long-term capital gains, if you have sold the shares acquired the shares prior to 1st February 2018, then you have to the fair market value will be computed based on the higher of the cost or higher of the price which was there on 31st of January, that is 1st of February, end of 31st of January, and accordingly your capital gains will be computed. So if you don't give your ISIN number, the sheet won't be validated. So ISIN number will be mandatory in case of long-term capital gains. So if the person is a resident individual, then he has to fill up the schedule 112A. If the person is a non-resident individual, he is required to give the same details, but he has to fill up the schedule 115AD, because that income is taxable under 115AD. Information is on the same lines, but the schedules are different for different kind of persons. So those people who are dealing in number of shares, these transactions may be higher. So in that case, it is advisable that this information is gathered well in advance to submit it, because and department has told that this all informations will be pre-filled in the XML and will be given to the SSCs for submitting the returns. Now let us see when this utilities pre-filled utilities are being provided, because if the person is having n number of transactions, it will be very difficult to fill up this schedule. So let us see how this thing is taken care of, because last year also this information was mandatory, but at the last moment this ISIN code requirement was taken away with and the utility was validated. So as of now, this is without this filling up full details, it will not be validated. And ensure that these details are already available with the income tax department, because every day the stock exchange submits the information relating to this sale and purchase of sale. This exchange of information is being done. So based on this information is already available with the income tax department, so they may be able to provide these details. So whenever you are filing these details, see that it is filed correctly, ensure that the details are being captured properly from the contract notes and invoices which are issued to you, because here it requires to give you the sale price per unit, expenses, all has to be given separately. So exactly it should match with what it is available in the information which is submitted. Then capital gains on sale of property. If a person has been, the buyer of the property's Aadhaar card number or the PAN number has to be given if you are claiming any exemptions under capital gains relating to short-term gap. So if a person who has purchased the property or property, you have sold the property, but that person has purchased the property, the person may tell that if he is not having the PAN number. So and accordingly, if the person is not having the PAN number, means he is not filing the return of income. So such type of transactions, these huge transactions could be reported to the income tax department. They have made now that you can use the Aadhaar number. The Aadhaar number of the either PAN or the Aadhaar number of the purchaser has to be given. Otherwise, the utility won't get validated. So this is mandatory. Additional disclosure, that is 43, section 43B was amended, wherein now if the interest is not paid to the NBFCs, wherein the loan which has been taken and the interest has been not paid to the NBFC, as on which is NBFC, the interest which is payable as on 31st of March 2020 to the NBFC, and if the person is required to pay this interest within the time limit which has been specified for filing the return under section 139(1), so that payment is required to be made within that time. If that payment is not made, then that expense is disallowable. So accordingly, that separate, it has to be mentioned in the specific clause. So here, any disallowance which is related to NEC 43A, B, C, D, or DA, whatever is there, which is reported in the tax audit report, that for disallowance which is reported in the tax audit report has to be mentioned accordingly here in the ITR itself. So this also information may be captured from the utility. Let us see. And from 1st of November, 1st of October was the date wherein now additional deduction was allowed for purchase of motor car or motor vehicle. Then this column was not available, that is 45% column has been added. So if you are claiming depreciation at the rate of 45%, then you are required to fill up this schedule. So this schedule was not there till last year, so this is required to be filled up if the additional depreciation has been claimed. Schedule DI is mandatory for all the ideas, that is details of investment, that is the additional statement has to be filled up in this return for all the investment or deposit which is made during the period 1st April to 31st June. 30th June is now to be read as 31st of July because this is extended. So schedule DI is mandatory for all the investors. So if you are claiming any deduction under any of this chapter 6A part A deductions, then you are required to give the breakup that what amount has been deposited prior to the 31st March and after 31st March. So whatever amount which is deposited after 31st of March, that will form a part of the column number 3, and that has to be mentioned separately. But here one thing has to be taken care of, that whatever amount which you are depositing it after the due date, that is after the extended during the extended period which is allowed by the system, please don't claim that amount again in the next assessment year. Otherwise, it would amount to the double deduction, and you will be liable for penalties for disclosure of incorrect information. So this schedule is mandatory for all ITRs. So this, if any amount is not deposited, amount is deposited prior to 31st of March and you are claiming it, then you have to fill up 00 in the column number 3. Similar way, section 80D now requires here to give that whether you have paid any premium which is related to senior citizen. So first you have to answer the query whether there is any family member who is a senior citizen in your family, and if a person is a senior citizen, whether you have paid any insurance premium. So if you have paid any insurance premium which is related to that senior citizen, then you have to report that figure in the separate column which has been given. And if you have claimed that additional 5,000 benefit which is related to, which is on account of this preventive health checkup, then also that has to be mentioned separately, because this was one of the reasons where the section 80D deduction was not allowed by the system at the time of processing the return. These fields were not available in the utility, so this has been modified, and now you have to report the figures in the separate schedule. In that schedule, where are the columns which have been given, so that the deductions will be allowed correctly. Directorship details, now here ITR to person. If a person is a director in any of the company, either it be listed, it will be an unlisted company, or it will be a foreign company, then you are required to give the name of the company, and you have to select from the drop down box. The PAN number of the company has to be given, whether the share is listed or unlisted has to be given. And if a person is a director in a company, then the DIN number is allotted to him, then that DIN number also is required to be mandated. So this all information will be shared through MCA and will be cross-verified through MCA and will be identified. So if any person who is a director in a company and if he has not filed the returns, definitely they are bound to get the notices for such type of non-filing. Even in case of unlisted companies, that is private companies or unlisted public companies, if you are holding any shares, then you are required to fill up the schedules. And type of company is now required to be selected from the drop down now, because earlier there was separate share where you are required to mention whether it is unlisted or listed, but now you have to select it from the drop down box, and whatever the shares transaction, whether it is acquired or transferred during the year, then that has to be given separately, and accordingly the details will be again cross-checked or cross-verified with the MCA record. So MCA record will be cross-checked, and your price at which it is sold, that also has to be given, and whatever the capital gains which is reported, automatically it has to reconcile with the scheduled capital gains, whatever if any capital gains is related to this. So this is the mandatory requirement. Scheduled PTI has been introduced this year. So PTI is basically related to the investment income which has been derived from the REITs and the investment funds or trust or such type of trust. Because what was is happening that earlier the income was taxed in the hands of the trust, and the trust was distributing, and that income was tax-free in the hands of the SSE. But now this due to amendment in the act, now that income is being taxed in the hands of the SSE itself. So this scheduled PTI is now required to be filled up. So if you are having any income which is pass-through income from the such type of business trust, you have made an investment in such trust, then under section 115 UA, 115 UB, etc., then you are required to mention, fill up the schedule. And even any loss which is carry forward or of the earlier, and that you are claiming the setup of that loss, then that loss also has to be mentioned separately, because based on your current income, your share of loss, actually whatever you got from that, the net income will become taxable. And if this such type of trust has deducted any TDS and you are required to claim such type of TDS, then that TDS figure also is required to be mentioned over here, so that you get the credits for such type of TDS which has been deducted. ITR 127 again, same is linked with this scheduled PTI. So house property loss, share capital loss, long-term loss, etc., etc. So related to your PTI, now you have to give, the column has been divided into two parts. That is the normal loss and normal loss which you have claimed in your earlier return, and pass-through income loss. So if the pass-through income loss which has been claimed as set off, then that also has to be given in the separate columns in this one. So accordingly, your loss which is there, even if the loss is carry forward, then that loss also has to be informed here that this loss is carry forward. Those SSEs who are getting the business income from insurance business, they are required to now fill up this schedule, that is in computation of income. Section E has been added. It is related to income from the insurance business, and in insurance business also, if any additions or reductions are required to be made under section 43B related to your provisions which you have made, and you have made the payment subsequently or not made the payment subsequently, then that deductions or additions and deductions has to be mentioned in the schedule, and accordingly your income sheet will be computed. So basically it is related to the SSOCs who are having business from life insurance business. For that purpose it is there. Then ITR 6 is the biggest change are there in the ITR 6 and ITR 7. That is income received, those persons who are getting income from foreign currency as per section 115BD of the Income Tax Act. These incomes are chargeable at a concessional fee. It is basically related to the shares of sales, sale of shares, long-term capital gains, etc., etc. So for that, a separate schedule, a separate field has been inserted in Schedule OS. So whatever income is reported in 115BD schedule has to be reported here in other sources, so that accordingly here the benefit of DTA has to be given. So if your company is basically a Section 8 company, or the company which is related by guarantee, that is a charitable trust company, or startups which are there, for them the SH1 schedule is is not applicable. So at the time of selection of the in part A, you have to ensure that you select your status correctly. And if you are a registered startup which are registered as a DPIT, that is Department of Promotion of this Trade, and then you are getting the registration number, and if you satisfy all the conditions which are there, then only you are required to fill up this. You are exempted from filling up SS1 schedule. Otherwise, you are required to fill up, and wherein you have to give the details of the registration. So then only it will be mandated. Now, verifier of the income tax return in ITR 6 now requires to mention the residential address. That is, those persons who are signing the return of income in ITR 6, the DIN number was mandatory in case of directors signing, but now the person who is signing the return, in case of other than the directors, or if he is direct, the residential address has to be given. So residential address has been made mandatory. And in the case of other persons, the PAN or the Aadhaar number can be given. Basically, the person has to use the digital, the person who is uploading the return, that is signing, verifying the returns, digital signature has to be used, and that digital signature has to be registered on the income tax website under the profile option. So same digital signature has to be used for filing the return of income. ITR 7 I6 cannot be filed without the digital signature. Then about the transfer pricing adjustment, that is, if you're covered by transfer pricing audit, and if the auditor has done any adjustments, auditor has qualified or done any adjustment has to be done on the basis of the transfer pricing report, then you are required to fill up this schedule TPSA, wherein any additional income which is reported, it has been chargeable at a special rate. So that the tax which is computed on that, and when this tax as liability has been discharged, this schedule has to be filled up mandatory. So any additional tax paid, this will become mandatory. It is related to ITR 3 to ITR 7. ITR 7 under basic information, now you are required to give the 4 more declarations. That is, if you have undertaken any project, you are registered because your trust has been formed for specific project, then you have to select this, which project is there, whether the nature of activity and classification, any approval which has been obtained, that has to be given. And yes, if you are aware that now it is mandatory that all the trusts are required to be registered again. So that registration time limit will start from 1st of October to and will end on 31st of December. So all these trusts will be, the time limit of 3 months has been given, so they will have to re-register it. So they have, if they have registered, got it registered, then they have to fill up this schedule. Or if you are having, you are filing the return of income as of now, then you have to give your old details. So any earlier registration, so these 3-4 schedules have been made, declaration has been made. And if you're registered under any other act other than Income Tax Act, that means basically all the trusts are registered under the Charitable Trust Act. But so that information also has to be given. So in addition to a charitable trust, also if you're registered under any other act other than the Income Tax Act, then also you are required to give the details. It may be related to GST, etc., etc. Then you have to mention the details here. Re-registration of the trust, that is made mandatory, we already discussed. Donation from the part of purpose, etc., the disclosure requirement has now been enhanced. So if any money you are received by way of a purpose, then you are required to give the full details of the persons who have contributed to the purpose. Basically, here the intention of the government here is to see that, ensure that the details on the unaccounted money are not being part by way of a trust. This is basic one of the reasons for adding such type of additional informations. There are other changes in the field, that is income like interest chargeable at the concessional rate on account of DTAA. Then the reporting of such income has to be done by way of a residuary income. Foreign companies, if there is any royalty or fees from technical services, they are chargeable at a concessional rate. So all these columns are given in the ITR. So if any such type of income is reported, is offered for taxation, please fill up the information in the correct field. So accordingly, your tax computation gets correctly, your tax liability gets computed correctly. Otherwise, if you don't fill up this information correctly in that specified clause, it is definitely going to this income will be charged at the higher rate of taxes. So, and if in the return is filed in response to the notice issued by the department, then UDIN number is required to be mentioned. Basically, if you see from 1st October 2019 onwards, UDIN number has been made mandatory. So, any notices which comes from the income tax department should have the UDIN number. And this UDIN number is generated from the system itself. So, if you have got any notices related to 149, 142.1 or 139.9, which is related to your default in the returns, etc., and you are filing the returns on basis of such notice, then you are required to quote the UDIN number. And if that notice is not generated from the system, then your return won't be accepted by the system. Companies which are opting for alternate tax, as you see, the companies for this year, they are having two types of, that is, they can select, the option has been given, that is a new manufacturing company or the company which has been set up after 1st October 2009, they are chargeable at a separate concessional rate of tax. So if you are opting for such type of this scheme, then you have to select directly in that particular in the part A, wherein the option has been given that which options you are exercising in. And you have to ensure that you fulfill that requirements of that particular section. Then only you can fill up that here covered by this section. So be very specific, be very particular, because if you are selected that you are liable to such, you are selected that you are paying tax under this section and taking the benefit of this section, and if this section is not applicable to you, then definitely at the time of assessment or at the time of processing, definitely it will give you the additional liability on account of misreporting of income or misreporting of tax in the incorrect taxes. Section 115AB relating to the taxing of offshore fund mutual funds. So basically, if it is this type of income is taxable at a concessional rate, so 10%. So you have to report in the correct section. Then basically this is related to builders and developers. That is, Finance Act has been amended wherein it says that if a builders and developers has obtained the occupation certificate and they are holding the property, and the property is held more, that is the asset is held more than 2 years, then they have to offer the income as a notional income under the income from house property. That's basically related to builders and developers. So if you have received, if the person has received the completion certificate or the occupation certificate, then in the 2 years, then also you are required to disclose such properties that will be disclosed as a SOP, that is a self-occupied property. So wherein you have to report it as a self-occupied property, but if the property is unsold. But after 2 years, you cannot report it as a self-occupied, you have to offer the notional rent as per the amendment in the Finance Act. So accordingly, you report it correctly. And any remuneration or interest which is paid to the member of the association of persons, it is disallowable. This column was not available till last year, but now it has been entered in the now it has been given in the ITR. So if it is related to any such type of disallowance, it has to be reported under section 40BA. Earlier last year it was reported under 40B, but now it is required to be reported under 40BA. It is a separate clause. Then 2 points are removed in part B, that is corpus donation to other trust or institution chargeable as per the explanation 11.1 is removed. Deduction under section 10 double is removed from ITR. But one new point is added, that is 115 TD, that is basically related to transfer of income or the dissolution of trust, or when the fund has been distributed, that is chargeable at the maximum rate. So those who are dealing with the trust, please go through this provision 115 TD and see that it is reported correctly, and whatever info is reported in this clause is chargeable at a maximum marginal tax rate, that is 30% plus. Bank account refund. Now till last one you were required to give one bank account. So now here you have the option to give the two bank account. And when you are filing the return of income, basically ensure that your account is pre-validated on the Income Tax Department's website. So if it is pre-validated, your income will be directly credited to your bank account, which is there. So now you can give two bank accounts. So if your first bank account is not working, or it is closed, or due to some other reason, due to technical issues, the refund is not getting credited to your first bank account, it can get credited to the another bank account. So two options has been given, but here it does not. It says that you are required to give all the bank accounts. That is, two bank accounts should be for refund, but whatever bank accounts you have held during the year, that all has to be reported. So here the field has been given for two. So if you have more than two bank accounts, you can just add the accounts. The columns can be added. And now it has been stated that those who are the non-resident SSCs who are there, and they don't want the refund in the Indian bank account, they want the the refund in the foreign bank account, then they can give the details of the foreign bank account also. That is a SWIFT code, name of the bank, country of the location, and IBAN number has to be given, so that the refund will be directly credited to that bank account. Ensure that first this bank account and all these details are being verified with your concerned bank, then only you report it. Otherwise, the refund may be rejected by the system. So basically, and if you are having more than one bank account there in the foreign country, and you want that the refund should be transferred to any more, that is up to two accounts, here also the option can be given. So then you can add up any more row you want to add, you can add the rows. Then acknowledgement changes. That is, still last year when you were filing the return of income, that is ITR 1, 2, 4, 3, except ITR 6. So ITR 6 has to be mandatorily verified through digital signature, without which your return cannot be uploaded. But ITR 1 and other than ITR 6 returns, so if you are uploading the returns and if you are not verifying it electronically, then your return, this acknowledgement will be generated. This acknowledgement will be called as Indian income tax return verification form. And this acknowledgement will not have any of your income or tax payment details. So this will have your details as your name, PAN number, form number, which is filed under the section, acknowledgement number will be given. And if you want to sign it and send it to the Bangalore office, you can sign it physically and send it to the Bangalore office. Once it is received by the Bangalore office, you will get another acknowledgement, which will be termed as your acknowledgement under ITR-V or ITR-5, whatever you call it. And there is a change in presentation of acknowledgement also. So till last year, your income, if there was a loss, it was that it used to show as 00, etc. And your tax details, this only B1 to B14 columns were there. But now this column has been divided into part that is related to your income. It is separated, related to your tax payment, related to your refunds or carry forward of losses, etc. It has been divided in such a way. So once you have e-verified your return, this other acknowledgement will be generated. And it is not mandatorily required that you have to, once you have filed the return, that immediately the e-verification has to be done. The time limit of 120 days is there. Within that 120 days, you can do the e-verification anytime. But I do not recommend that to wait for this, because due to our hectic schedule, etc., we may forget to do this e-verification. So see that your e-verification gets completed immediately. The modes of e-verification remains the same. There is no changes in the mode of e-verification. So you can do it through your Aadhaar OTP or through your bank account, DMAT account, etc., etc. That can be done through. Then this validation and verification rules, this has been made mandatory. So any disturbance is going on, please.
Sir, disturbance avoided. You can continue. Sorry for that.
Verification and validation rules are made mandatory. Now, verification and validation rules, these are the rules because of which the utility is being processed. Now, coming to the processing part, that is first, whatever, these are the three types of mistakes which are generated. That is, category defects have been classified as category A, category B, and category C. So when you are, whatever the mandatory information which is required to be entered in the ITR, if it is not entered properly, the error message will be displayed and it will not allow you to generate the XML. So if the XML is not generated, you will not be able to upload the return. So it requires whatever the error messages, that the error messages will be displayed that these errors have been found in your return. Fill up this information. This mandatory information is required to be filled up. Once you fill up that mandatory information which is displayed in the error, your return will be generated. Your XML will be generated. Then second type of error is whatever the information you have filled up, but certain information which is required, this may cross match. So that type of cross matching is done by the system, and at the time of cross matching, it will give you that these are the differences, and these are the errors which are found in your utility. So it gives you a precaution that if you upload this return, then you will be getting the notice under section 139 for defective returns. So here it has to be, here you have to be very specific. If any such type of information, this precaution, message is generated, ensure that you correct this message before uploading the return, because if this type of message is displayed, then definitely that return will be considered as defective return under the system, and return will be rejected and it will be sent back to you, and you will have to you have to regenerate the XML, and within 15 days you have to upload the return in response to the notice of the section 139.9. So I would better advise that don't file such type of returns, and ensure that you file the returns correctly in the correct format, so you don't have to redo the work again and again. And basically, if you see now, most of the people are using the softwares for filing the returns of income. That is, the statistical information in the data says that almost around 85% people are filing the returns through private third-party utility providers. So third-party utility providers are also required to take the licenses from the income tax department. So whenever you are filing the returns of income, if you see that this return contains the code which is given to them by the income tax department, without this code, it cannot file, the returns cannot be uploaded. So department here keeps the track of all the returns which have been filed, and if there are mistakes, there are inconsistent data quality, the quality of the data which is generated by the software is not in accordance with the requirements of the income tax department's rules, then definitely they will be given the warning that your data quality of the data is this, you need to improve this. There will be the warnings which has been given, and if these warnings are not being adhered to, the licenses of these software providers will be cancelled and they will not be allowed to. And if any returns is generated to this type of software, then that will not be accepted by the system. So again, accountability has been made on account of these third-party utility providers also. So they have also been made accountable. So this is one of the biggest advantage. So basically here it is that reasons of calculations of mistakes, why the mistakes are happening. That is, if you don't fill up the accurate and the complete details which are required in the income tax return in the relevant columns. So even if you fill up if you are filling up the returns, you have to give the information in the correct cell and the correct columns. So it is more crucial, because whatever the information, if you are filling up if it is filled up in the incorrect clause, then your calculation of tax will be incorrect. Then in case of computation of income or refund is different than what has been entered by you or what is expected, please verify the accuracy of data entered in the ITR. I always recommend that whenever you are generating using the private software or any, whatever the XML which is generated or what are the ITR acknowledgement before filing is generated, you just verify it, whether it is correct or not. You can just identify whatever the refund, because you, being a chartered accountant or being a professional, we are well aware that this much income is chargeable, this much income is taxable. You just verify the computation of income and you will be able to ensure that the data is correct or not. And once you are satisfied that this your refund, what is computed by the system, what is captured by the system is correctly or not, and accordingly after considering them, then only you upload the return. And those who are using basically the private utility department's utility, definitely when they use the department's utility, there is an option in the department's utility, that is RPU, that is in the ITR utility, that once you click on compute tax, it will give you the final computation, that what exactly your computation is, and it is basically nothing but the 143.1a notice, 143.1a intimation which is generated. So 143.1a intimation is available to you immediately, so you can just verify whatever is reflected there, that will be reflected in your 143.1. So this is basically a checkpoints which are there, that is basically total salary from all the employers, irrespective of whether the form 16 has been issued or not, should be entered correctly. Basically this is our this column is there. Then interest income on fixed deposit, saving banks account, etc., should be entered in the income from other in the correct column. Because what happens, saving bank account, again interest, if you don't reflect there, you don't get the ATTT benefits which is available. So these all columns are linked with each other. So incorrect filling up of forms results in incorrect calculation of tax. consequences of late filing, basically late fees are there, everybody is aware, then you cannot carry forward the loss. Penalty interest is there, 1% interest you have to pay under section 234A. 234A you have to pay, losses cannot be carried, and deduction under section 10A, 10B, 80IA cannot be allowed. So basically they are required to file the returns. E-verifications can be done, that is through net banking, provided your bank account is account linked with PAN and you have this mobile number linked with this. You can do through net banking. ITRs, except ITR 6, you can use all this facility. ITR 6, it is only through digital signature. Through EVC, through bank account number. Your demat account also you can do. You have to pre-validate a demat account on the ITD portal. You can do through registered email ID and mobile number, provided your income is less than 5 lakhs or any refund is also less than 100 rupees. Through Aadhaar OTP, basically, if your Aadhaar is linked with ITD portal and you have this Aadhaar link with your bank account number, this mobile number. the income tax department is planning that now this Aadhaar OTP should be your passport. So once you log in, that OTP will go to the this SSC and that your password will be your Aadhaar OTP. This is planning which is going on. So this is basically to that unauthorized prevent the misuse of this income tax department's this PAN number. Then locking of the PAN for unauthorized use. So if you insert wrong password for more than 3 times, then your account will be locked for 24 hours. This is also under consideration. Then capturing of information from earlier years, that is in the pre-fill option in the utility, all your information to be captured from various sources and give you the pre-fill utility to fill up the return of income. Validation of bank account before filing of return itself to get the account process credited. So if your bank account is not pre-validated on the income tax website, then your refund will be rejected by the system. So whatever the returns you are filing, ensure that your account is pre-validated first and see that your bank account does not get closed till that the refund is processed and the refund is credited to that perfect bank account. And department is also planning to do the real-time processing of returns. That is basically the ITR 1 and ITR 4. That is once you upload the return, immediately the returns will be processed and the refund or any demand which is there will be generated. So this is basically under consideration to avoid the last days and see that don't you depend much on your juniors, because when you depend on your juniors for filing the returns, there may be the chances that other people's balance sheet may be uploaded in the tax audit report, or these are these common things which are there. So basically avoid such type of mistake, because in the last days when everything is on the auto mode, if we want to complete the work, so don't wait for the last days. If you have ample of time, so in the free time you can, whatever the details which are ready, you can just compile it and file the returns and take the benefit of it. Changes in 26AS, basically new 26AS, now it is called as annual information statement, which has been mandated effective from 1st of June, and wherein now this will have additional information, that is the Aadhaar number will be available, the date of birth, date of incorporation, mobile number, email ID, etc. will now be there. Your address will be available in the so any of these changes which is required to be done in this has to be done by filing form number 49A. 49A has to be filed, submitted online through this TIN portal, or you can upload file it through this TIN facilitation center. Now the TIN facilitation center may be working, may not be working, but you can upload it, file it through digital signature online. Then now your form 26AS, that is the AIR information, will give you all the information related to your tax deducted and collected, so which was already available. Your information related to the specified financial transaction, that is 13 categories of transactions which are notified in form 6100, that will be available for inspection. Any information which is related to the payment of taxes. New field added is related to your demand and refunds. Whatever the demands, if it is till now the refund details are available, demand which is pending on the income tax department's portal was not available, but now this will be made available. Any pending proceedings with the income tax department, all these details will be made available, will be there in this AIR. Information related to the income tax assessment which are completed, whatever the demands which are outstanding, demands which is generated, etc., etc., and any information pertaining to the rules, that is 1145 relating to your AIR information, all will be available in 26AS. So this information was supposed to be available from 1st of June, but now since the due date for filing the returns, previous returns and other returns has been extended, So this will take time. So don't be in a hurry to file the returns of income without verifying this information, because this is one of the source from where the mismatch is generated. And if the mismatch is generated, you will have to do the filing of returns again. Notification number 35 of 2020, that is 24th June 2020, that is has extended the time limit, that is income tax return for financial year 18-19 now can be filed with till 31st of July. The 19-20, 30th of November tax audit report, which was earlier 30th of September, now 31st of October. Asset tax paid up to 1 lakh, then up to, if it is up to 1 lakh, then you can file it up to this 30th of November. There will be no 234A interest payable because the due date has been extended. Then I think this 54 and deduction, that is 54 to 54 GB. It is mentioned here OR, but it is actually 54 to 54 GB because there was a typing error at the time of issue of notification. So that has been extended to 30th of September. So this basically TDS returns, etc. So by 15th of August, all these returns, this Form 26AS would be processed. So till that time, you have to please wait with that till that time and start filing your returns there. And returns generally don't rely blindly on the returns which are prepared by the staff, because it is ultimately the author is ultimately it is the requirement of the chartered accountant, that is the person who is responsible to file the returns. The assistance of the staff can be taken for preparation of returns, but finally the correctness of it should be verified by the principal. Ensure that the sufficient and accurate backup is available for the future requirement. Do not depend on the system. Better to have one hard copy. And I would also recommend that one backup copy should be available out of office, because due to this situation which is there, because anytime anything can happen. Don't blindly rely on the system. You can use the cloud services which are available at the nominal rates. Certain other services which are with our institute has also tied up with certain private software providers wherein they are giving such services at a very reasonable rate. So you can take the benefit of them also. But I would always recommend that one hard copy should always be available, and whatever the information or the details which have been there created from time to time should be deleted, and only the latest file which are there available in the system should be there in the system. Because whatever happens, because you may have different numbers of workings which are there. So whatever your final workings are there, delete all your earlier working, because not this may create a problem from the two areas. That is, first of all, your computer memory, RAM consumption, your processing becomes slow due to the usage of much more RAM, and your storage capacity is being utilized. So basically, your capacity, storage capacity can be reduced. And basically, when there is a scrutiny assessments, at that time you are required to submit such information. And by mistake, if you submit the incorrect information or upload the incorrect information, definitely it would result in fines and penalties. So basically, these are the things we should require. Don't blindly rely on the returns which are generated from the private software, because there may be some mistakes. So the income tax department's utilities are more or less control related. They are final, and final computation should be clear. Whenever there is an updation in the software, at least I would recommend that any XML which is generated from the software should be opened, or should be verified through income tax department's utility and cross checked, and whether both these computations are correct or not. Then only you file the returns. And don't ever try to override the utilities to suit, because there are many people who can modify the utilities. That is, those in our field also there are some software engineers who can who can modify the utilities to suit their purpose. But don't ever try to do this, because at the time of processing, whatever the utilities which has been issued by the department, the processing is done based on the software or the codes which are written in that utility. So if you modify the utilities, your returns may not be processed or rejected by the system, or if it is rejected and accepted by the system also, the chances are that your tax liability may not be computed correctly. So don't ever try to override the utilities. If you find any problem in the utilities, department's utilities are 99.99% final. There may be some mistakes from our point of view, because there are so many amendments in the Act, and basically we have all our minds basically concentrated into so many things, so we may not be aware of the provisions. So if you find that any such mistakes are there or in computation, go through the act, verify the act, study the act, and see that whether there is a genuine mistake in the utility. If there is any genuine mistake in the utility, you can write to the income tax department. Basically, you can send the representation or the mail to us to our this direct tax committee's ID, that is dtc@ici.in, which is the wherein whatever the problems which are there, we generally frequently compile this problem and represent to the departments through various sources, so that the utilities are corrected in timely and the returns are filed correctly. So basically, it is our endeavor to ensure that the filing becomes correct. So if you find something, just you can write it to the income tax department's via website. Also, the e-filing help desk is available. You can cross verify, cross match with them. No adjustment. This provision relating to adjustment, that is any adjustment which has to be done under section 143(1). Prior to issue of this 143(1), a preliminary information will be sent that these are the mismatch which is found, and based on that, it will ask you whether you are accepting these mistakes or not. If you are not accepting these mistakes, then you are required to give your submissions that what is the difference, why you are not accepting it. And if you are accepting that there is a mistake in this, then there you will have to file a you have to again upload the utility by correcting the mistakes which you are accepting it. No deduction of expenses even if the unexplained income is determined by the assessing officer. Now at the time of assessment, suppose what happens that if any income is identified that this was income is remaining unexplained, the assessing officer may add that income, but you may represent that against this income I have so many expenses, so that expenses won't be allowed. So basically here is that, so you report your income correctly in the return of income. Chartered accountants, because now whatever the returns are now been filed, or whatever the representations which are being done, or the whatever the filings you do, the income tax officers or assessing officers are also being given the powers to complain against such type of erring chartered accountants. So if such type of mistakes are found and this has been pointed out and it's been reported, then definitely option is there under section 271(1)J, which gives the powers to the chartered accountants to file appeal against this ITT. But I would basically want that basically such type of things should not happen, because it hampers our profession's image and also our reputation in the eyes of the clients. So our image is at the task, and if you see the changing times are such that today we are facing such a type of issues, and if such type of issues creep up, definitely again it creates a problem. And secondly, all professionals, I would definitely recommend that you take the professional indemnity insurance, because if any such type of claims are there under any other income tax act, then you are prevented by such type of insurance cover, that any problems which arises in future, so you don't have to, that policy takes care of all such of the issues which has happened. So you may not be capable of paying such type of hefty fines which has been imposed in future due to such type of ignorance or such errors which has happened. So basically, professional indemnity insurance should be taken by all the professionals. E-proceeding is now extended to all scrutiny assessment. There is totally face-based assessments. So basically, be very specific while submitting all the information, all the details accordingly. And basically, here the e-proceedings details are to be given by the SSC itself. SSC then gives you the power for scrutiny, that as an authorized representative, you are required to represent, because that discussion requires a separate topic, because that is it takes almost around 1.5 years for discussion. But definitely this e-proceedings information and notices are available on the PAN number of the SSC. Unless and until he authorizes you, that won't be shifted to your user ID. So basically, all the information are submitted through e-proceedings, and see that the information submitted is correctly. And any default in furnishing the AIR also has a huge penalty which starts from 5,500 rupees per day. So your AIR information last date was 30th of June. There is no extension in that submission. So basically, any AIR, if it is pending, you submit, please submit it, so that the returns can be processed correctly. Section 80AC, which deals with stringent action against the non-filers, that is, if you are not filed the return, and if you are allowed to, if your notices has been issued to file the returns, then deduction under section 80H to 80 RRB is not available, because it has not filed the returns within the specified due date. And there is a stringent provisions for non-filing of the ITR. That is, it provides for the imprisonment up to 2 years in case the person does not file the return of income, But basically here it says that if your tax liability is less than 3,000 rupees, then yeah, then the prosecution will not be launched against you. Now 3,000 tax liability is the minimum tax liability everybody would be having. So practically they are considering as of now is 1 lakh rupees. So all the prosecutions which are launched, which are wherein the people have not filed the return, the tax liability is exceeding 1 lakh, that type of actions are being taken. But the act says that it is up to 3,000. For the companies, they are excluded. So if the companies has not filed the return, but if the tax liability, tax evasion is identified, which is even less than 3,000, then that type of companies are liable for prosecutions. This is basically the reason here is the target to prevent the abuse of this exemption, which is provided on the basis of the amount of tax payable by the shell companies or by the companies which are holding Benami properties. If you see, this is a great menace, wherein almost around 6 lakhs companies has been deregistered, and now the department has started taking action against such companies, and their companies are now being again re-registered through NCLT, and these all procedures are being going on. So basically, if you require any help, the call center of the income tax department is there. You can send an email on the e-filing help desk with help desk, and there are the tools which are available. So all these presentations are available on the income tax website. If you face any type of issues, you can just download the presentation which are available on the income tax department website, and you can do your filing correctly, or any type of issues which are being, just go through the presentations which are available on income tax website. If you are unable to use that present, then only you can take the help of such type of call centers, etc. Dedicated call centers numbers are there. That is basically, if it is related to income tax queries, rectification and refund, filing of returns, then these call centers are available. You can take the help of these call centers. But the future is that the new utilities will compute the tax liability based on the information which is filed, which is based on the acts which are written, which is on the basis of the self-assessment. It is a self-assessment, it is verified properly. Then days have come that we have the e-assessments. We cannot do away with. Everything is covered through e-assessments. Reports of unreconciled transactions in the form of 26A submissions and returns details submitted is the main tool for the mismatch. So basically, take care of this. Cause of concerns, that is all information you are filing on the income tax department website. It is preserved by the CPC as a CPC is a preserver of our information. We may forget, but CPC will not forget. All information related right from 2006 when it was first started. That is, now we are in the 15th year of filing. From 2006, 2007, all these informations are being made available. Everything is available on the CPC server, and unless and until something happens to the server, but all the informations are there. And these informations are being computed, verified, cross-checked, and based on whatever the data this is preserved by the CPC for the lifetime. And it is, you cannot challenge it that this information is incorrect, because you have submitted the details, you have submitted through a digital signature, and it cannot be removed from the. So this is the biggest cause of concerns. I think I have tried my level best to cover. Some people may have liked it, may not have liked it, but this is the future and you have to be with it. So you have to change. If you cannot, you have to change, you have to accept it, but without acceptance, it is not a problem. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. Today's job, you cannot do it with the yesterday's methods or your yesterday's methods, and for tomorrow's business, you have to use tomorrow's tomorrow's working, which is requirements. You cannot you cannot be out of it. So if you want to be in the system, you have to accept it. A mistake, if it is a mistake, it is a genuine mistake. You have a time. You can rectify the mistake. If you have filed the return which is correct, incorrect, then you have the time limit for revision of return. Revise the return, but let us correct it. That the returns can be corrected at a time. So mistake can be written, the return can be corrected, but other mistakes cannot be corrected. Any relationship which is spoiled through these mistakes definitely can ruin your entire life. So correction of both, earlier the better. Friends, whatever I have tried, it is my views, purely my views. Some people may have different views. Some people may have different opinions. Basically, some view may not be agreed with you. So basically, whenever this is basically is for your your reference purpose, it should not be taken as a legal interpretation, because if we are in the changing technology, and changing technology requires the upgradation. So basically, whenever you find any issues, any problems which is related to this, first go through the guide. Income Tax Act is available, income tax reckoners are available, income tax rules are available. Study the law properly, and even if you are not satisfied, you can take the help of the other practicing professionals. But see that you do it properly and you do it correctly. Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience hearing and your time. Now, I think I have some time for question and answers. We can take it.
Yes, sir.
So we can definitely take it. I have tried my level best. So if I have forgotten anything, please forgive me for that. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, we'll put the queries in.
Yeah.
So we have a query.
One question which is there, after you are listing a session, we are sure that the SSC must file the income tax return by the CA only, and only CA should play a vital role in the national thing. Definitely it is there, but due to the challenging time, because we have other professions also which are filing the returns of income, they are giving this type of services, but our services cannot be compared with any other professional, because basically the understanding of the law which is by us is definitely proper. But one thing here also should be taken, that whatever advice which we give it to our client should be proper, so that we do not face any such issues from any other. And second thing, as a return filer, because what the utilities department says that the returns has to be filed by the SSA, not by the chartered accountant. So one thing here, it is very much required that returns, you can prepare the utility and give it to the SSA for filing, or if you are filing it on behalf of the SSA, definitely take such type of some representation, etc. has to be taken from that due to this reason he has authorized you to file the returns or upload the returns, and he has taken your services and you have done. But basically, I would always ensure that whatever the computations which are prepared, or whatever the documentary evidence which are given to you, is properly being certified by the certified, and you keep the necessary records. So if anything happens in future, definitely this will be at your help. So this is just my recommendation. So if you want to file the return, if you are registered as an e-return intermediary, as a chartered accountant, we can register ourselves as a e-return intermediary. And if you are registered as a return intermediary, then you can upload the return through your user ID and password. There is a separate user ID and password to e-return intermediary. The necessary procedure and details are on the PIN website. You can register yourself. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Whether TDS return one is extended in the notification 20 financial year 20, I think it is extended till 31st of March, what it is stated, but I have to go through this notification. Just go through the notification. It is 99.9% is extended to 31st of March.
Okay, sir.
How to set up the loss from income property if the SSC have salary income and short-term capital gains. You have to fill up this schedule of so put the figures correctly in the correct column. The utility will definitely compare it and will take care of. Whether the shares of the company which was previously listed on the stock exchange and thereafter got delisted from the exchanges will be included in the informations which are given for the unlisted. Yes, definitely, because as on date of the filing of the return of income, it is unlisted shares. So you have to take it as an unlisted shares. Fine, no queries now. It's completed.
Sir, we have. Just a minute.
Okay. 1 minute and. Changes in the tax audit is applicable from the assessment year 21-22. No, it is applicable from assessment year 2021 by Finance Act 2020. So please say that it is assessment year 2021, not assessment year 21-22. Then it is query of Mr. Akash over whether shares of which was previously listed. I think that I have covered. Is it what is the meaning of pass-through income? Pass-through income is basically when you have the income, when you have invested in this investment trust fund, that is REITs and such type of funds are there. They invest on your behalf and they generate the income, and that income is transferred to you. That is called as pass-through income. Is it retrospective in amendment from AY 2021? I think what is this? I think this is related to tax audit. I think about 44 AB. So I have already covered that. Then coming to this TDS setup of loss is already covered. What about the employer contribution? If it is not paid on time, delayed by 1 day. Employer contribution, then if you are doing tax audit, in tax audit you have to report it as report it if it is not paid within that specified time. Refer to this section 43B. 43B will be helpful to you. Just go through that section. And if you have anything, any issue related to this, the guidance note is available. Even our institute has come up with, the Direct Tax Committee has come up with this technical guide. You can refer to this, any technical issues. Almost around 160 technical issues are being covered, and it is available for free download under the on the ICA website. You can just download it. Holding the shares in the private limited company is to be reported as holding the shares in private limited company is to be reported as holding in unlisted company. This question I think is not correct. If a person is holding a share in a private limited company, then he has to report it as a share. But if the company is a holding company, the private limited company is a holding company, holding the shares, if it is exceeding 51%, that is the requirement of holding company, then it will be considered as a holding company, otherwise not. But even if the private limited company is holding the share which is less than 51%, then also it is required that holder of the share has to be reported. In case of joint property holder, we have to file ITR 2. No, if your criteria, if you are fulfilling the criteria of ITR 1 or ITR 4, and if you are able to file ITR 1 and ITR 4, you can file it. You can use it. ITR 2 can be also be used by you. It is not mandatory, but it is not mandatory. And the query of Akash Agarwal, that is individual whose total income is less than the taxable, who has been filing the income tax regularly in the past and have paid electricity bill for more than 1 lakh in the last year, whether he is required to file. Yes, definitely, because earlier he was filing the return of income voluntarily, but now he is required to file the return compulsorily because of this 7th proviso. So then you are required to, he cannot file it as a regular return, he has to use that option. Software is taking first set off against short-term capital gains and then salary income, but IT department doing the first salary and then short-term, which is the correct? Income tax department's utility is the correct. Income tax department utility is the right one, and you just go through this provision of section 7, this 70 to 70 adjustment. It's verify it and which has to be taken. If it is mistake is in there in the utility, I think 99.99% utility is the correct. Fine, I think I have covered all the queries. If any more queries are there, fine. Thank you again, everybody, for giving this opportunity, especially Binder Study Circle and all the same meeting we had last week with Vasai Virar CP Study Circle also. And
okay.
Fine, Nikunj, I think everything is okay.
Yes, I believe yes, the queries have been answered. We are already getting the feedback, sir. People just love your session right now.
Thank you.
Atul Bhai, one of our senior members, has already given his feedback. Thank you so much, sir. Ajay, sir, one of the track question, sir. What about this AY 1920 returns? Do you think any chances of this getting extended again?
See, we have made a representation to extend it to 31st of December. Now let us see, because the representation has already gone from the Direct Tax Committee and from the chamber also the representation is going on. So our representation is to at least basically to extend it. Now let us see, wait and watch.
So this has been given after this extension of 31st July or before this extension the letter was sent?
Extension letter is already sent. It is sent now only. I think on roughly around 6th or 7th July it has been sent.
So I believe they should now at least consider it.
Yeah. We are. Let us keep our finger crossed. If they consider it is proper, because what is happening, the returns. If you see the returns, till almost around 2 crore returns are still pending for filing.
Yes, sir. And we are already staring at a lockdown extension again.
Yeah. That is one of the reasons which we have been given, and definitely we have given other reasons also. We have sorted out almost around 7 to 8 returns, because still this pandemic is not over and it is going to take 2-3 months more to settle, because all businesses are closed, everything is closed, and our CA offices are also been closed. So basically, that is what the reasons we have given. Let us see and wait and watch what is the outcome of this.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. So we conclude the session, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks again from the bottom of my heart. It was a really very informative session and very comprehensive, sir. You covered almost every aspect, and the icing on the cake was that you handled the queries also, sir. Okay. Sir, now as you talk about the query, I just got one more query.
Yes.
As per I guess you are able to see the query, right, sir?
I'll just go through this. I think no, last query has not come.
As per ITR, person having turnover between 1 to 2 crores, having profit 6 or 8%, can avail benefit of provision under 44 AB of 5 crore through law you denied, sir.
See, one logical thing you just understand. I will just explain you logically that if your turnover is below 2 crores and you are reporting profit within 6% or 8%, what is that? Then you don't consider that other criteria. Other criteria is not applicable to you. So you have reported your profit at a specified percentage, then the tax audit is not required. But if your turnover is below 2 crores and you are not reporting the profit within that period, then definitely that provision then tax audit is covered.
Okay.
I think you are going to circulate the material to everybody, right?
Yes, sir. We do that. We also circulate the recording of the session so that members can have a reference whenever they want to.
Yes,
thank you so much, sir. Once again, sir.
Thank you very much.
All the members, on behalf of all the members of Bhinder CP Study Circle, we thank you. So I request CA Abba Parab, coordinator, to please give a formal vote of thanks to appreciate sir's contribution.
Good afternoon, everyone. I CA Abba Parab, a member of Bhinder CP Study Circle of WIFC. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks to a multifaceted and multi-talented speaker, Avinash Rawani ji, who explained new ITR forms for assessment year 2020-21 in such a elucidate manner. This is our need of hour. Sir, indeed, each and every explanation provided by you for ITR forms was so relevant and apt for us to fulfill and enrich ourselves with the knowledge. I am sure our participants had lot of takeaways from today's VCM. I also thank to each participant for making this VCM a resounding success. Thank you, Avinash sir, and thank you, Nitin bhai, for providing me with this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abba. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'll share the presentation, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We'll take your leave, sir. Okay. Members, I just request to please quickly check आपके IDs के साथ में आपका membership number है या नहीं. Please update it because we are having a lot of